Have you ever heard of a war fought over a single dead body? Seriously, not for a kingdom, not for some priceless treasure, but for the actual physical remains of one man. Well, today, we're going to dive into one of the most mysterious and honestly overlooked conflicts in ancient history.
Okay, let's get right into it, because this is the core question, right? It just sounds so bizarre. The soul is gone, the body is left behind, so what on earth could make the corpse of one man so valuable that it would trigger a face-to-face showdown between God's #1 warrior and the devil himself? So to really understand this battle, you first have to understand the man at the center of it all, Moses. And his death, well, it was just as unique as his life, totally shrouded in divine mystery, right from the very beginning. I mean, you gotta remember, Moses wasn't just some historical figure. He was basically a living symbol of God's power. This is the guy who held the staff that parted the Red Sea, the man whose face literally shone with divine light. So everything connected to him was seen as miraculous, which made his physical body an incredibly powerful object. And talk about a poignant ending. After everything, after decades of hardship, leading an entire nation to the very edge of their destiny, Moses gets to see the prize but isn't allowed to enter. He dies right there, alone on the mountain. But what happens next, that's what kicks this whole cosmic drama into gear. Now this is completely unheard of. The text says that God personally buries Moses. This isn't some big state funeral. It's a secret divine act. And that tells you right away that the location of this body is a huge deal. God doesn't just let it be found, He actively hides it. And that's the puzzle that just hangs there. For thousands of years, the location of Moses' tomb has been one of history's greatest secrets. No monument, no mausoleum, just nothing. A mystery so deep it apparently really bothered the devil. It just begs the question, why go to all that trouble? But here's the thing. This earthly mystery was really just the shadow of a much bigger, unseen conflict. While the world just saw a missing grave, a full-on battle was raging in the spiritual realm. The kind of battle whose consequences can literally ripple through history. And there it is, one single explosive verse, tucked away in one of these shortest books in the Bible, and it just blows the whole story wide open. It confirms it, a direct confrontation. Heaven and hell, face to face, over the physical remains of Moses. This wasn't a little disagreement, this was spiritual warfare. So on one side you have Michael, God's chief warrior, the very embodiment of divine authority, and on the other, Satan, the ultimate rebel, the master of lies and deception. This wasn't a battle of equals, it was a battle of pure divine right versus rebellious claim. Okay, so this brings us back to our big question. We know who was fighting, but why? What was Satan's plan? What could he possibly want with a dead body? Well, it turns out he had a very, very clever and dangerous strategy in mind. You know, a body is just flesh and bone, right? Not to Satan. He saw it as a symbol, a message, and most importantly, a tool. This is where the whole conflict becomes a battle over meaning, not just matter. He knew that people tend to worship what they can see, and Moses was their hero. Satan planned to use that devotion in the worst way possible. Satan knew his audience, that's for sure. I mean, these were the same people who, while Moses was up on the mountain getting the law from God, melted down their gold to build a calf to worship. And later, they even started worshiping a bronze snake that was supposed to be a symbol of healing. Satan knew their history. He knew their weakness was turning a symbol of God into a god itself. It was a pretty simple but devastatingly effective plan. Step 1, get the body. Step 2, turn it into a holy relic. Step 3, pretty soon people are praying to the tomb of Moses instead of the God of Moses. Their hero would become their new idol. So at the end of the day, here's the crucial point. Satan's entire scheme was about misdirection. If he could just get people to focus their worship on the man, on the physical remains, he could slowly steer them away from the true, unseen God. He wanted them to get so caught up in celebrating the rescuer that they'd forget all about the one who gave the rescuer his power. But God wasn't just playing defense here. Hiding the body wasn't just about stopping Satan's plan. As we're about to see, God had a far more profound, long-term purpose for the body of Moses, something that Satan could have never, ever seen coming. This is where the story gets really fascinating. God's move wasn't just a reaction. Hiding the body wasn't the end of the story, it was a preservation. It was about keeping something safe for a very specific future event, an event that wouldn't even happen for over 1,000 years. It just shows how some plans can stretch way beyond what we can see.
The sheer patience and scale of this plan is just staggering. For centuries, the body remains a secret, its purpose hidden, just waiting. And then, around the year 30 AD, something absolutely extraordinary happens on another high mountain.
And this is the big reveal. At the Transfiguration of Jesus, Moses appears, not as some ghost, but alive, in a glorified body, talking with Jesus. This wasn't just a vision. The text describes a real physical presence. The body that was so fiercely fought over was preserved all that time to stand as a living witness to the Messiah.
The two plans just could not be more different. Satan wanted to use the body to get people to worship Moses. God used that exact same body to point people to Jesus. Satan's plan was stuck in the past. God's plan was all about the future. One plan was designed to trap people in idolatry. The other was meant to reveal glory.
So, when we look back at that secret war, we can finally see it for what it really was. This was never just about a corpse. This was a battle over the meaning of a legacy, a fight over a powerful symbol that could either seriously mislead people or illuminate the truth.
You know, what's so incredible is how the battle was won. Michael didn't get into some long, drawn-out debate with Satan. He didn't argue theology or legal rights. He just invoked a higher power. With 3 simple words, "The Lord rebuke you," he ended the entire dispute, not with his own strength, but by declaring God's ultimate authority.
So what do we take away from this incredible story? First, that symbols really matter, and there are almost always battles being fought over what they mean. Second, that some plans are so huge they can only be understood by looking back, unfolding across centuries. And finally, that there are unseen conflicts that shape our world, where the real victory isn't in winning an argument, but in resting on true authority.
And that kind of leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? The battle for the body of Moses was a physical event that pointed to a much deeper spiritual war over truth and deception. It really makes you wonder, what are the symbolic battlegrounds of our own time?